something different in my body. Something's missing from my body. And what I want women to know is that energetically, that source of what your uterus represented, it's still there. You lost the tissue.
Oh, that's so powerful.
But the source of that energy, that station, that creativity, that energetic imprint, that's still there.
Hello, and welcome to Soft Spaces Podcast, where I share a little bit of me to connect with a little bit of you so that together we can create a community of wholeness where our unmuted, unfiltered, unadulterated voices get to find healing, to thrive in every area of our lives. My name's Yolanda Lewis. I am your host, and I am glad you are here. On so many levels, I'm glad you're here. Today we have a special topic regarding women's health. And this particular episode, I'm bringing in a special guest. I did an interview with her in person. She's amazing. Her name is Meghan Kasper, and she is a pelvic floor therapist. And if you don't know what the pelvic floor is, she's going to describe it in the episode. But if you've ever had challenges with your reproductive area, with the way you use the bathroom and how your functionality of your internal organs flow, you may need a pelvic therapist to help you to release, unblock, and get things flowing in the way that they should. I know that after I had my hysterectomy, I had a full hysterectomy years ago, there were areas of my body that I wasn't comfortable yet touching. And there are things you can do to help you feel more connected to your womanhood, to help you reconnect to what it's like to be in what feels like a new body that may feel foreign, and all of the things that we experience as a woman, that disconnect, bringing us back in. So join us in the conversation and watch till the end, because I'm going to come back and we'll talk about what the episode shared. So Meghan, tell us what pelvic floor is.
Sure.
And what do you do in that space?
Sure. So I am a pelvic floor therapist, which means I treat any dysfunction of the pelvic floor. And where our conversation will take us today, nothing has to be wrong, right, for us to start paying attention to that part of our body. And also, many of my clients are now coming to me, especially my pregnant clients, to prevent any issues from arising. So our pelvic floor is a group of muscles at the base of our pelvis that truly form a bowl. And they have many functions. The three major functions are intimacy and childbirth, right? We want to have pelvic floor muscles that are mobile and have full range of motion to allow for penetration, if that's something that we choose, to allow for a baby to descend through the birth canal. We also want those muscles to hold tight for us when it's not time to go to the bathroom, right? So both urinary and fecal leakage can be a dysfunction of the pelvic floor. At the same time, there are people who have a hard time letting go, right? Have a hard time, maybe they're holding on to urine, maybe they're experiencing constipation. So we want those muscles to be able to lengthen and let go. And they also provide support, literally, to the spine and the body, as well as the pelvic organs. And so the more common conditions that I treat are incontinence, both bowel and bladder, urine prolapse, so uterine prolapse, rectal prolapse, cystocele, which is bladder prolapse, rectocele, which is when the rectum kind of slips, and starts to put pressure on the vaginal canal. I treat any type of pelvic pain, whether it be pain in your bones, pain in your vagina, pain with intercourse, chronic pain, any kind of bladder pain, urinary frequency, urinary urgency. A lot of women walking around thinking they have small bladders. I was the same. I had to pee every 40 minutes. And I just believed I had a small bladder until I went to my first pelvic health course. And they told me that a lot of those issues are actually behavioral.
Wow.
And that we can train our bladder to be functional where we're peeing every 2 to 4 hours, which is optimal. And I also treat the core. So any kind of diastasis recti, which is common with pregnancy, but also with a lot of active people who are lifting heavy weights, sometimes we get a separation in those core muscles. And I also treat a lot of postpartum birth injury. I treat a lot of postpartum women who just want to go get back into activity and movement safely. There's so much that we can do when we reintroduce movement and exercise in our postpartum bodies to prevent a lot of those things that can come up. And I work with women who are pregnant, whether they're having any of those pelvic issues during pregnancy, or they just want to help facilitate a birth and educate themselves about how they can prepare for birth and especially recovery. For birth prep, I always tell people, I can't guarantee anything. Birth is birth, right? We can do all the right things and that baby has a plan of its own.
Right.
But I've seen so much birth trauma, and what I like women to know is that if we educate ourselves and if we have a birth partner, we educate our birth partner, and we show up with tools and positions that we know are biomechanically going to help facilitate movement, and our partner has tools to help us with our nervous system so that we can let go. We've showed up and we've done everything we can. I know my first birth, I didn't know what I didn't know, and he is fine and wonderful and thriving today, but it was very stressful and a few days in the NICU. And I always thought back to, if I had known to move, if I had felt educated, if I had felt empowered, maybe I wouldn't have the birth trauma that I did. Maybe something could have been different. And even if it wasn't, knowledge is power. So I always tell my clients, I can't promise you that that's going to make it the best birth ever, but all of my clients do report back, whether they were able to use the tools or not, they felt like they did the best they could, and whatever happened was much easier to cope with. And I can guarantee a better recovery.
Yeah. I love what you do. So I first learned about it when we went on the retreat in the Amazon, which was amazing. And
Take me back.
Yeah, I know. And it's been such a way to transition back to real life too. But one of the nights we were able to jam about some of what I had gone through, my trauma with regard to hysterectomy. Among other, I also had a double mastectomy, a prophylactic double mastectomy. And so with all those ectomies, there comes huge transition as a woman. And so I know I'm not the only woman who's ever experienced hysterectomy, ever experienced these other ectomies where you're having things removed from your body and the shift that requires. So I was so intrigued to learn about pelvic floor because I wish I had met you. I hadn't even heard the term before. I didn't even hear it after my 2 sons. I heard it literally after the hysterectomy. So,
Wow. So this is very new to
so
you.
it was so new to me. Like there's somebody who helps with that. And I remember right before surgery being so nervous about how my body was like going to still flow. And even sexually, I'm a married woman. We love sex. You know? So how is that going to impact how we connect to each other as partners and lovers and friends and husband, wife? How do we keep it magical with caring for me? Because it would start there. And if I had a hysterectomy, pelvic floor, I imagine, would be a part of some of that healing. Talk to me about what that might look like.
Sure, absolutely. Unfortunately, in healthcare, I've never experienced a hysterectomy, but my clients have. And one of the things I notice is that the doctor is very great about follow-up care and all the medical aspect, but who's talking to you about how your identity has shifted, about these organs of creation and our sense of self and our sense of sexuality and sensuality and our breasts and all of those things that are really, really tied to our femininity, which is tied to our creativity, which is tied to our power, which is how we show up in the world as business owners, as women, as mothers, as wives. So that aside, biomechanically with surgery, depending on where the approach is, I mean, that's our core. Your uterus is at your core. So either before or after education, just on some basic core principles can be super helpful. The most common two things that I teach with women who are trying to reconnect to their core or recover from any surgery is through the breath and posture, how we can really challenge our body to show up optimally. And most women are not walking around thinking about how they're breathing or how they're standing, right? And so for my very busy mother who has 4 kids and a full-time job, she's not getting on the floor doing exercises for me.
Not.
So a lot of the treatment in terms of regaining our core strength and making sure those muscles return the way they were before in a coordinated way is through how we show up in our body all day, every day. And it's moments of time, right? If you had a hysterectomy and your core doesn't feel quite the same and you're standing, I know you do dishes, right? And you're standing at the counter, can you take 30 seconds where you put your body in an optimal alignment and your core can show up responsibly? That's better than any ab exercise you could ever do. Also, we're looking at scar release, right? I always tell my clients there's something called connective tissue DNA. Some people got great DNA and other people, it's just not fair. I can have a woman who has had 6 to 8 abdominal or ovarian or uterine surgeries and procedures and has no issues. And I can have a woman who has had 1 DNC and scar tissue is wreaking havoc in her body. And
How does she know it's wreaking havoc? Like, is it pain or is it
pain, limitation, a constant feeling of presence and pressure and pulling and tugging, pain with sex, pain with exercise, just depending on how intuitive they are with their own body, just being like something's off and it's not making any sense. So, just basic gentle myofascial release and scar mobilization post-surgery can help prevent issues in the long run. A lot of people think, I had a C-section, I'm not going to have any pelvic floor issues. But actually, C-sections are most tied years down the road to pain with intercourse. And if we think about a knit sweater, and if we pull a piece of that knit sweater, it creates restriction. And so any kind of surgery that we've had in our body, no matter how we feel about it cognitively, right? Obviously, it was the best choice for you, but it still is trauma to the tissue. And there is still going to be scar tissue. And some people are fine with scar tissue and other people aren't. So a little bit of having scar massage by a body worker or pelvic floor therapist or doing your own scar massage and just acknowledging the healing that needs to be done.
What could be, because you said doing your own, what's one example of a massage you could do like on yourself?
Yeah, so if you have a scar, you need, I think, at least a good 6 weeks clearance from your medical provider before doing any kind of scar work. I have some people I have use their hands, but a lot of women after any kind of abdominal surgery or gynecological surgery are not comfortable even looking at their scar, never mind touching their scar. So, we want to just slowly introduce touch. Maybe we have on a thick sweatshirt and we are just putting a ball in between and we're just getting used to that new sensation of that new space that probably has some numbness, that's probably going to bring up emotion, and we're just sitting there with that sensation and being curious. Okay, this is different. Something different in my body. Something's missing from my body. And as women, what I want women to know is that energetically, that source of what your uterus represented, it's still there. You lost the tissue.
Oh, that's so powerful.
But the source of that energy, that station, that creativity, that energetic imprint, that's still there. So everything you harness from your uterus, you still have access to. I just got goosebumps.
I felt that literally. So there's a term my niece taught me, like when something's really good, you say clock that. So this is how you do it. So I'm clocking that. That was so good.
Yeah, it was.
Because that's how you feel when you've had these organs removed from your body. Even if they're replaced with like implants and things like that, you still feel a sense of missing or something's wrong with you. I've referred in my healing journey of, yes, I know I made the best decision for my body in both cases. I recognize that. But there's an emotional piece, there's a spiritual element to where you are reconfiguring your alignment. And in that, I've referenced, I don't want to be a Raggedy Ann doll. Like, while I'm grateful for the opportunity and the choice to be able to make these decisions before it was out of my control and I didn't have a choice,
I also feel so thrown together.
I feel like there's foreign pieces in you just from the surgery.
It does feel foreign. I
What,
felt
scar
like
tissue?
I could take them off. Like,
Yes.
well, specifically with my breasts, right?
Yeah.
Because I grabbed them. So
Yeah.
for reference, I'm not out here grabbing boobs, you know. I had that experience with my breasts, and it did I'm just now actually getting to the place where it feels like me.
Connecting, reconnecting. Yes.
I'm just now arriving to that space. Now, cognitively, I know how to get there in terms of tell my mind and things like that. But
Yeah.
to live in that space where
Yeah.
I feel like one woman again, where I feel like whole
Yeah. And you.
in me,
Yeah.
even though I am new and I'm different, I'm just now feeling like me. And it's been 7 months.
Yeah.
So it takes time, but there is that feeling of disconnection. So I
Yeah.
love that you talked about that.
And biomechanically, that is a way of reconnecting. Now there's meditations, there's somatic body work, there's lots of therapies that we
Sure,
can seek
sure.
out, but just, you can do all those therapies in the world, but if you have a hard time touching yourself, and that's where the connection starts. So
And when you touch yourself, and I hate to jump in, but I've got to just say this so people know how real it is. You are afraid to touch yourself. You're like literally scared to touch your own body.
yes, and some people are actually skeeved out. Skeeved out, like, ooh, like I can't,
Yeah.
it reminds me of what happened. It might remind me of trauma. It might remind, for women who've had C-sections, remind me, think of their body being cut open. It's not always a positive memory. So starting with other things, maybe a ball, maybe a blanket, light, soft sensory touch, and slowly graduating to maybe your hands and some gentle massage, and maybe graduating to a professional massage or a partner or a loved one's massage. That can be great for energetic connection, as well as just making sure that the scar tissue doesn't become too thick, right? Which will help with overall mobility.
So when it becomes too thick, then you become what, like stiff or like?
Yeah, so I have women who have super thick scarring and it doesn't impact them. And I have women who have super thick scarring and it can pull their bladder over, right? I've had women who have had hysterectomies and have a vaginal cuff and they feel that scar tissue during intercourse, or they feel like there's pulling, or sometimes the muscles around the scar maybe hold tension, maybe hold the trauma of that surgery. Whenever I'm working with my mentees, because I mentor pelvic health therapists as well, I always tell them that the most difficult answer in pelvic health is it depends, and it's different in every person, because it truly is, which when you're learning this stuff can be really hard to navigate. But it truly depends on every body and every situation. But I want to turn back to something you said about how long it's taken to kind of sort of start to feel like you. And this is another thing that if you find a very good holistic pelvic floor therapist, it's not just the biomechanical treatment of the body. It's really addressing the whole mind, body, spirit. And after any major transition, whether it be the loss of an organ, the loss of a child, or the birth of a child, we as women in this society are not given time and space and permission to grieve the change. Becoming a mother is amazing. A lot of women, that's what they're trying to do, and they're going through so much to do this. But there is a loss of the person you were before. And there's a really wonderful book that I recommend to all women, no matter where you are in your motherhood journey, called Like a Mother. And she tackles some really hard things and some really hard truths. And she's the first person in any maternal book that has ever given awareness to, it doesn't matter how much joy motherhood brings you, you are still grieving the loss of the person you were before. Once you're a mother, it doesn't matter where you are in your life, if your child isn't okay, you're not fully okay, right? That's a huge responsibility. And for those who prefer not to be mothers, or have chosen not to be mothers, or not able to be mothers, any other kind of major surgery, especially around the feminine, we do need to grieve that loss, that loss of what was, that loss of maybe what we had hoped for with those parts.
And the loss of who you were with those parts. You know, I'm so glad you said that, because I remember, like, India Ari, she has a song, I Am Not My Hair, you know, all the things. And so as it relates to my body, it was like, I am my boobs, like
Yeah.
there was, when I was younger, I didn't have much. Then when I became a mother, right, then there was that transition. Then I got more and then I got more, but then I got used to it.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't even about like, I want big breasts. It was about, I know that. I know who I am with that. I know that person. I know her. I'm connected to her. I am her. And so I gave a lot of my clothes away because putting it on, while it fit in other places, I only saw what I used to look like that didn't look like that anymore.
You didn't look like you.
And so I had to get rid of clothes for that reason. But then also buying clothes for that same reason was another struggle and another challenge because of a point of grieving, really, of what I can't have ever again, what I will never be. Like when I go into the store, I get a certain size. I know the size.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who makes the clothes. It didn't matter. I knew the size. Now I have no clue.
Yeah. And how to dress for your body type.
Yeah.
We have a body type.
We do.
Through life. And we
do.
learn to work around
And you figure it out.
And show our radiance and hide what we want to hide. And
right. And that was the other thing too. I was never like letting the girls out. Like I didn't even dress like that. It was principle.
Yeah.
They were still mine. That's the other grievances, that they were mine. And so I just want to highlight that, not to highlight me, but for women to know it's okay if you feel like that as a part of your journey.
It is.
It's okay.
It is. And beyond just everything you just said, I mean, with your breasts, with your nipples, for women who breastfed, for women who enjoy sexual pleasure in that space, there's a loss of sensation and a pleasure. And that deserves that deserves acknowledgement and grief and time.
It does. It does. So let's shift into kind of how does the pelvic floor tie into our sense of identity? We've touched on some of it a little bit, but like, what more do you have, I guess, to add to the sense of identity in the pelvic floor as it relates to all things, motherhood, surgeries, and menopause? We can go there too.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. We can go there as well because that's another hot topic. So talk to us more about that.
So our pelvic floor, if you think about, again, I like to start biomechanically before I go off into all of the fun stuff. But I mean, it is our center. It is our root. We have these arms and legs, these appendages that move, but our stability, our true core, the name of my company is Core Essence. Who we are at our core, that's where the real stuff is. It's our heritage. It's our history. It's our sense of, as females in this space, in our pelvic floor and our pelvic bowl, this is where we hold our ancestral history, our own history. Anything that has happened to us, good, bad, we store a lot of unprocessed information here. The amount of emotional release that can happen in a bodywork session when we are working in the abdomen and the pelvic floor is really powerful. If you think about the root chakra, that is our sense of survival, of safety, of grounding. All of our experiences, all of our major life experiences, our sense of creativity, this is literally the mouth of the river of life. This is where women give birth to life. And I've read a lot of Tami Lynn Kent's work, and I really highly recommend her book, Wild Feminine. But she talks about how we pay so much attention to the uterus when we're preparing to have a baby and at childbirth, and then we don't reconnect to it. And we need the energy and what our uterus and our pelvic floor represents throughout our lifetime, because we don't have to just give birth to children. We can give birth to businesses and art and creativity and relationships. And like, this is where we harness our femininity. So it's a huge source of our identity. It's a huge source of our sense of safety and survival. Again, back to the root chakra. It clinically, as a muscle, provides us spinal stability and support. Right? It protects us when we run, jog, walk. The pelvic floor is like this trampoline that absorbs shock, protects our spine. The pelvic floor works with the other inner core muscles, which is our deep transverse abdominis, some back muscles, and our diaphragm. And they create a house. And the major role is to manage pressure so that all of our organs work the way that they're supposed to and blood flow, but also spinal stability. Our pelvic floor is the foundation of that spinal stability. So it really is responsible for how we show up in the world. And a lot of people in this day and age, particularly with how much, and I speak from a woman's standpoint because I do work primarily with the female population, and we are so in our heads in this world. There's just too much. So we are often in our minds, I have to do this, I have to do this. This person has this camp, this person has that camp. I have to do this for work, but I have to make sure I go grocery shopping. And so we're very often disconnected from our pelvic floor. But it is, for those reasons, a huge sense of our identity.
Hey, Soft Spaces fans, I got a question for you. Based on you listening to this podcast, you probably are looking to stop burning out. You're probably looking for ways to reconnect with you and start living lighter. If that's you, I want to invite you to the Embodied Life Reset Experience. It is a one-day workshop taught live by me that's in person, where you get access to a private community, and it's really unlike anything else that I offer. In our time together, and by the end of this workshop experience, you'll have insurmountable clarity on how to make room in your everyday life to just breathe, to be able to reconnect and still accomplish all of the things that you are responsible to accomplish, all of the dreams that you have envisioned for your life. It happens at this workshop. So make sure that you sign up, click the link in the description, and I'll see you on the other side. Let's get back into the convo.
And when there has been trauma, particularly in that area, but anywhere, we hold it down there, and that can block our flow in all the ways.
It makes me think of the emotional, you talked about like reconnecting, and it's really resonating with me, the reconnection piece of how after we, let's say we have children, or even when you're prepared, just I'm thinking about all of being a woman preparing for life. So you think about your uterus when you're getting ready to have your period, right? I got mine at 9. So that's young. But, but you think about it then, and then you're constantly thinking about it. Then the next part you think about it is childbirth, if you choose to go that route. Then you're constantly thinking about it then. And then I don't think you think about it again until you hit menopause, because it's going the other direction.
The other direction.
And so I think it's so powerful, that connection piece. Like, we wouldn't abandon our arm like that. We wouldn't abandon our toe, our foot, our leg.
No, we take care of our hands. Look at your nails. Look at the love you've given to your fingernails. Right? Our uterus, our pelvic bowl needs that same love.
And we neglect it. So I imagine too, you mentioned also about there being a behavioral connection to some of those myths that we have. So let's talk about the emotional piece and what trauma responses show up from the emotional piece of pelvic floor necessity.
So here is the structure, right? And if we, first of all, sometimes we can have pelvic floor dysfunction truly for biomechanical reasons. I had a baby, I had a vaginal tear, now I have discomfort. That can happen. More often than not, there's often an emotional stress, nervous system thing is also contributing to those symptoms. So that could look like pain, right? I always say, especially with chronic pain, where there's no longer like an acute thing creating that pain, it's often our body saying, we need some attention here. And that attention might not need medication. It might need for you to process some old shame, trauma, emotions, stress, and release it from your body. And that can be hard for some people to hear, because that can be more work than a few physical therapy exercises, right? That can open up a whole new can of worms. So very often it can show up as pain, it can show up as muscle tension, holding, guarding. I have a lot of women who, especially with a lot of eating disorders or trauma around body image, who are holding so tight in their stomach all the time. That's their sense of safety. They're sucking in, their mothers told them to suck in. There was so much attention and shame put on that part of their body, and they're holding for dear life, and they have pain. or they have pelvic floor issues, bladder irritation, constipation. All of these things can show up as a result of unprocessed emotions.
I love that because, well, I don't love it, but, but I can connect with it. I remember, so a part of my story as well is in college, I was raped and then as a child, sexually abused. So fast forward to being an adult woman, I hated, like with a passion, detested
A pap smear,
Pap
an
smear.
internal assessment.
Hated
Yep.
them
Yep.
because it required me to open up in a way that wasn't my choice. I had no choice in the matter because you want to get those things checked out.
Right.
That's important. But it just brought me back to too many different negative spaces. And so I would wait as long as possible to have it done. And I'd have to have my husband go with me.
Yeah, for
Because,
safety.
yeah, for safety. I did not
No.
feel safe and I had no choice. So this was my way to create
Yes.
safety. And that's a trauma response as well,
Yes.
showing
And
up.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that's actually, I want to talk a little bit about that, but I want to thank you for sharing that. I'm holding space for you because unfortunately 1 in 4 people have had that experience and I see that on my table. And that is another way that trauma can show up in the body. It can impact libido. It can impact the ability to receive in the vaginal area. I have a lot of women who, when I say muscle tension, I have women who come on my table and are physically unable to put anything into their vagina. Those muscles they're guarding, they're protecting. That is our sense of safety. And if our safety has been violated, particularly at an age before we even know who we are, that can happen. Yes. So you didn't even have the language, right? So your body is holding that for you. And I have had women who have, it's something called vaginismus. It's basically when the vaginal muscles are completely tight. There's women who can't receive a pap smear. They can't put a tampon in. They can't receive any pleasure from their partner, or they don't want to because that brings up too much. So it can impact us sexually as well and physically. That's another very profound way. And I just want to tell anybody out there who's listening that is having that experience that you aren't alone.
Yes.
And that there is help for that. And it's not a quick fix, but your body are capable of healing when you are ready to show up in that space. And it's okay to not be ready as well. I have had women who have been in a marriage for 20 years who have had intercourse with their husband one time and said, this is not for me, or it was painful, or they don't believe it can happen. And they often come back to me in menopause when they have time as their kids are grown and they're retired.
Right.
I have had women who have had healthy sexual relationships with their husbands, but then developed coccyx pain. And they have tailbone pain. So tailbone pain can be a result of falling off a horse, being a gymnast, falling skiing, birth injury, or we can just have tailbone pain because something's there that we need to release. And we did an internal assessment, and I'm very trauma informed. I assume that anybody on my table may have trauma. So I'm really big on making sure the person on my table feels in complete control and complete power, knows what's going to happen, why it's going to happen, and I ask permission at every stage of the game so that they have control. That's their space. That's their sacred space. And it came up that she was also sexually abused as a child, and I was the first person she had ever shared that with. And she had held on to that for 30 years. She has children, she has a husband, and so people are holding on to a lot. And this whole thing is about connection and emotion. I just want to encourage women to take the time and take the space to tune into your body and listen to it, because it has your story. And we might not have access to that right away. We might need a pelvic floor therapist, other therapists, talk therapists, somatic practitioners, energy workers, whatever works for you to help facilitate that. But at the end of the day, we want to be able to be still with and connect to our bodies. And that's where the healing begins.
That is a perfect segue into my last question with regard to how do we start listening to our bodies. Like,
Yes.
how do we start that reconnection process?
Yes, absolutely. That is going to be different for everybody. So,
Typical pelvic floor
like everything
therapist.
else, like there's no one answer. So I'm going to give you a lot of answers, right? For example, I mean, slowing down, quieting down, grounding practices. I mean, that's where it begins, but that doesn't look the same for everybody. I have meditated in the past. I have had wonderful experiences with meditating, but it is not my thing.
Right.
I can have a woman who is the CFO of a company and has 5 kids and is busy. And if I tell her to meditate, that's going to create more stress for her.
Definitely.
So acknowledging that what works for one person doesn't work for the other, but any way that you can slow down and connect to your body. Sometimes I tell women to start by closing the door and putting on a TV show that makes you feel good and just being, and maybe putting your hand on a space that might be. But really it's quieting down and listening in any way that maybe you're in a bathtub, maybe you're on a beach, maybe you are meditating, maybe you're in Brazil on the Amazon on a yoga mat, like Yolanda and I had the pleasure. And just starting to pay attention to parts of your body, especially parts of your body that might have experienced trauma, and listen to what they have to say. Now, what does that mean? It's just experiencing sensation. What does it feel like? Can you feel it? Can you move it? I have women who cannot activate and move their pelvic floor muscles. They have cut themselves off from that part of their body. They show up at childbirth and they're told to push and they don't know how to. There is truly like a motor pathway disconnect. So for some people, it might be grounding practices, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe it's meditation, maybe it's working with a somatic practitioner. It could be a healing conversation with somebody who feels safe for you. It could be creative expression. So if we go back to our sacral chakra, that is our creativity, right? And ovaries and our uterus are literally organs of creation. They create life. And so creative expression, maybe you're not ready to tune in to that space, but maybe you can start to think about it and see what comes out in art form, in journal form.
Can I just pause you right there?
Sure.
It's so cool that you said that, because what first brought me to sharing my story about my childhood experiences was not necessarily telling someone. I actually wrote a poem.
Wow.
And that's the other powerful thing about release. Our body wants to let go. It wants to let go. And when we can tap into whatever that looks like, that's why I love the way you said that. Whatever that looks like, it might look like a poem.
Yes.
That you thought you just thought you wanted to write a poem that day.
Yes.
And really it was your body's way to say, I want out.
Yes.
I want out.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. And movement could be a walk. It could be a yoga practice. Breath. Always come back to the breath. You don't have to meditate. Can you just focus in on your breath? One of the best tools I teach all of my clients, no matter what they're coming for, because it really is the foundation, is feeling how the pelvic floor responds to the diaphragm. And most people are holding so much tension in their pelvic floor that they're not getting that. They're not receiving. They're not getting that response. So yeah, so there's that's a really great place to start, listening to your bodies. And I'm not sure what we have time for, but I have a teacher who does a lot of birth healing work. Her name is Lynn. She's been a mentor of mine, who also studied with Tami Lynn Kent, who wrote the book Wild Feminine that I recommended. A really nice visualization that we can do if you'd like.
Let's do it.
Called a pelvic bowl clearing.
Okay.
Would you want to try it?
Yeah.
And listeners, you're welcome to try it. And I will direct you to Lynn Schulte's website, where she does a much better version than I'm going to come up with right now, but I'm going to do my best. And so when we say pelvic bowl, we are thinking about our center, our core, our pelvis. Okay. So I'm going to invite you, Yolanda, to close your eyes, uncross your legs for me, and just take a deep breath. And I want you to tune into your pelvic bowl. Think about your pelvic bones and everything that is harnessed in between them. And I just want you to notice what comes up for you. we're going to start to pay attention to what this bowl looks like, what this bowl feels like, right? It doesn't even have to be round. What shape is your bowl? Are there colors that come up? Are there textures that come up? Do you have cracking in your bowl? Do you have jagged edges in your bowl? Is it smooth? Is it soft? Is it aligned? Is one side higher than the other? Is it perfectly round, or does it have a shape? Just things to tune into and notice without judgment, which is a really, really important part of the listening process, is to show up and tune into our bodies with curiosity. What are we going to find? And not judgment about what we find. This can be a very emotional experience. Again, our pelvic bowl is the storage area for a lot of unprocessed emotions. Everything that happens to us as women, it can be harnessed down here. Pleasure, shame, ancestral connections. So there's a lot down here. And just notice what you see, what color it is, what's the temperature. And then I want you to start to look around your bowl and notice if anything comes up. Do you see anything? Do you feel anything? If something comes up, is it in one part of your pelvic bowl? Is it in the back? Is it in the front? Is it on one of the sides, or somewhere a little bit higher? And whatever's coming up for you, and if nothing's coming up for you, that's okay too. I'm just going to invite you to sit with it. Notice how it feels in your body. Notice when you breathe, if you feel any shift or change in your pelvic bowl. And if it feels good for you, I'm going to invite you to sweep whatever is unwanted or does not serve you in this space. How do we sweep our bowl? That is totally up to you. You could visualize a broom. That's what I like to use. You could get a hose. You could get a power washer. You could get a backhoe. You could get a rake. You could use your hand. Whatever feels good for you, I want you to find a tool or a way to sweep any unwanted energy or emotion that feels ready to leave. And we're going to think about our vaginal canal and a hole at the bottom of the bowl. And if it feels safe, we're going to start sweeping anything that doesn't want to be there. And some things might not be ready to leave, and that's okay. We can always come back to those at another time. So if anything is ready to leave, I invite you to take your tool and sweep your bowl in any direction that feels good. And if anything that wants to leave and swirl to the bottom, let's give it back to Mother Earth, and she can take care of it for us. It's all about releasing. Our tissues will hold on to things even if we're not thinking about them. And we want to let go of whatever we can so we have flow of our bodies, flow of our energy, flow of our creativity. And as we think about the pelvis and where things were and what was released, there's a lot more information in books and on the internet that we can talk about. But for the most part, things on the right side represent our masculine self. Things on the left side represent our femininity and our feminine self. The front, what we're holding in the front, is often associated with fear. And what we're holding in the back is often associated with support. I'm just taking a couple minutes, if you're at home, to reflect on what came up for you. And also noticing if it was too hard to visualize or too hard to connect. That's okay too. That's information. And then at the end, as we watch everything that we don't want or does not serve us swirl out of the bottom of our bowl back to Mother Earth. Just want to take our hands, if that feels safe, put it on our bellies, and thank our pelvic bowl for everything it's done for us. Bless it. And open your eyes when you're ready.
Wow.
And so I want to credit Lynn Schulte and Tami Lynn Kent and tell you that I highly recommend going to their websites and listening to their pelvic bowl meditations.
Thank you for that, Megan. You were absolutely amazing. What came up for me, I want to share that just so,
Thank you.
To help facilitate further exploration of others. What came up for me, so first I felt my root, if you will, open. Like I felt like a opening, like stretching, like a yawn.
Yeah.
It was like a yawn, internal yawn. And then I felt breath. That was, I guess you could say. So it opened, breath. Then I saw a bowl, and it was round, it was white, but it was ceramic. So it had, if you've ever done pottery, so it had like the grooves of, like if you were to use a cloth to create it.
Yep.
So it was smooth and consistent, but it was definitely a groove. It wasn't like flat, like it wasn't a flat dull. It was a dull white. It was white. That was the color I saw as well. I kept seeing white. And there was light only on one side of the bowl. That was interesting too. On the left side. It was only light on the left side. The other side of the bowl was like shaded.
Okay.
But it was still white. It was just shaded.
Okay.
And that was a wonderful exercise.
And so that exercise, I've studied under Lynn Schulte for birth and womb healing. That's a great grounding activity, which brings us back to our sense of safety. And again, as women in this world, Tami Lynn Kent and Lynn Schulte talk about if we can show up from our center, from our pelvic bowl, from our root, we are showing up with so much power and harnessing our creativity when we're connected to our pelvic floor. And even as somebody who talks about this every day, I go home, I have 5 children, I have a business, I'm in my head, who has camp? This client wants to reschedule. I'm not always living life from my bowl, I'm living life from my head. So it's a really great way to ground yourself every day so you can try to be in your day from your root, from your sense of power, femininity, and creativity, because that's what makes us rock stars as women, right? That's what makes us different. That's what makes us stand out. We bring something different to the world.
I love that. That is so beautiful. And I absolutely adore you.
Right back at you.
You're amazing. I'm so glad you could be here. Share with people how they can get in touch with you for more.
Sure. So I have a website. The name of my company is Core Essence Pelvic Floor Therapy and Bodywork. I'm also a body worker as well as a pelvic floor therapist. And that's coreessence.live. I'm also on Instagram, although I have to say I don't think I've posted anything in a year, and I'm very bad at responding to messages there. So if you would like to contact me, please contact me through my website. I need to work on my Instagram, and I do have a Facebook page as well. And I also invite people to visit my personal page, which is Meghan Kasper, and pretty easy to find.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Megan, so much for
You're
being
welcome.
here.
Thank you for having me. It was such an honor to be in this space with you. And I always say that I believe that I got called to go to Brazil to meet you because I can tell you're going to be a profound influence in my life. So
I love it, and I feel the same about you.
thank you.
Truly. Thanks
Thank you.
again.
Thank you.
All right. Until the next episode, I want to thank you for joining us, and I'll see you again real soon.
As I mentioned, Megan is amazing. Thank you again, Megan, for being with us on the Soft Spaces podcast. You are welcome anytime, because we love what you do for women's health. If you enjoyed this episode, comment below what your favorite part was. And if you felt connected to the exercise that we did together, I hope you joined in for that. And you felt, wow, I think I might need some help in that area, but it made you feel vulnerable. I want to invite you into a soft space right now where we can breathe into this moment of exposure. You may feel like all this time I had been holding back and feeling unsure when really I need to connect with my body. I need to reconnect with myself and your new self at that. In the soft space is where we can hold that emotion and let it flow in whatever way feels necessary for your body to experience it. And so, in this soft space, in this place of vulnerability, we breathe into the moment to calm our nervous system, to be present, and to take action through breath. So, now let's enter into the soft space. Welcome. In this place, we're going to take a few deep breaths together. And if you are driving, please do not close your eyes. Your safety is most important. But if you're able, join us in closing your eyes, whatever helps you to get present to the moment of now, and sit. As you're sitting, feel your shoulders drop, feel your neck loosen, feel yourself still, feel yourself disconnect from the noise that might be all around you. And as you take a deep breath in through your nose, you're going to exhale through your mouth. And we're just going to do a few of those together. But if you feel like you need to continue, please do after we're done. Let your body absorb this moment and take in everything that it needs in order to move through whatever it is that you feel right now in this moment. So let's breathe together. Deep breath in through your nose. Hold it, hold it, and release through your mouth. Sometimes in that release, you feel like you need to make a sound, and that's okay. Let your body express itself in that way. Deep breath in through your nose, all the way until your lungs are filled with air. One more breath, and exhale. If you need to continue breathing, please feel free to do so. In the meantime, thank you for joining me in the soft space. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you have a great day. I'll see you on the next episode. Take care and God bless.